Welcome to the Chasing Spirituality podcast. I'm your host, Megan, and I'm so excited that you're joining me today. Each episode is full of heartfelt and expansive content that will really help you expand your consciousness and grow as a person. I created this podcast because I wanted to share my own personal experiences on my spiritual journey, but I also wanted to meet others and have them share what they've been through and how they've gotten to where they are today. If you haven't done so already, it would really mean a lot to me if you could rate and review the podcast. This really helps the podcast grow and reach more people, but it also allows me to get more guests on the show. Now on to today's topic. Hello everybody, welcome to another episode of Chasing Spirituality. I'm so excited that you're spending your time with me today. And today we're going to talk about trusting yourself when it comes to really anything, but I'm going to really be focusing on spiritual development and trusting what downloads you receive and when you're connecting to spirit and how that comes in for you. And the reason I want to talk about this is because this is something that I have personally struggled with, and I also know that many people that I talk to have mentioned that this is something that they struggle with as well. So I think that it would be really helpful for me to share some of my personal experiences where I trusted myself and it really paid off, and just kind of talk about how our ego and our mind will really try to stop us from believing what's coming through. So whether you're, into mediumship or psychic development, or just wanting to connect with your personal guides, your own spirit team, channel divine beings, whatever it is, you will receive this information in a multitude of different ways, depending on what clairs you have. And I will do episodes on the clairs in the future, but just to kind of, keep it brief, some of the main clairs, clairvoyance is clear sight. So it's when you either see things internally or externally. Clairaudience is clear hearing. So this is when you hear things either internally or externally. And there's also claircognizance, clairsentience, tons of other ones, but I'm not going to go into all of those today. I will say that most people use all of the clairs. However, most people have one or two that are the most developed. They're basically the clair that they're the most comfortable with, and they may not even realize what clair they use the most often. But I'll say, if you're a very visual person, if you see a lot of images in your head, if you have a very vivid imagination, if you're really connected to your dreams and a lot of messages come through in your dreams, you probably have the gift of clairvoyance. This is probably one of your stronger gifts. The same way as if you hear a lot of things, if you're really connected to music or sound, you may have a very strong affinity for clairaudience. And there's nothing wrong with any of the clairs. There's nothing wrong with being more connected to one of the clairs than the other. No clair is more important than another clair. I know a lot of people think that clairvoyance is the most important clair, but it really isn't. It's all about you and how you perceive spirit. And this is why it's really important to understand how you receive messages. Because if you are a clairvoyant person and you receive most of your messages through images and pictures and through your dreams and these sorts of scenarios, then you may disregard the images that you see in your mind because you're used to them. If you have an active imagination, and in this imagination you are actively seeing images and replaying pictures and seeing symbols, you may not even realize that you're receiving messages from the divine because you're used to it. Like if you see a butterfly pop into your head, but you always see butterflies and flowers and images from movies or whatever, you may not think anything about it when Spirit sends you a message. And Erica, that comes on the show all the time, she's one of these people. We've talked about this a little bit in some of our spiritual talk episodes, where I pointed out to her that I thought she was very clairvoyant and that she needs to really start paying attention to the images that she receives and the symbols that she receives in image form, and not as much of the clairaudience that she was expecting. She was expecting Spirit to speak to her. And I told her that that's not always the case, that she needs to pay attention to all signs from Spirit. And she was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that you've like cracked the code. Like you pointed that out to me, and it's like it lifted a veil for her. And I've had that happen to me so many times, with my own development. I took classes with Allison Shine, and there was many times during these classes where I was like, oh my gosh, this is a clairvoyant gift that I have, and I didn't even realize that I had it, okay? I didn't know that clairvoyance looked the way that it can for some people. And I'll go into that into other episodes about, more deep into what clairvoyance looks like and how it comes through. I don't really want to touch on that too much in this episode. But if you notice that you are a very imaginative person, pay attention to the signs that go on in your head. Just because they're in your head doesn't mean that they're not real. It kind of reminds me of that quote that Dumbledore says in the last Harry Potter, where he says something like, just because it's in your mind doesn't mean that it isn't real, when he has that dream and he's connecting and speaking to Dumbledore after Dumbledore's passed away. And that's so true when it comes to connecting to Spirit. It's however you're going to receive the information is how Spirit's going to send it to you. They're going to send it to you any way that they can. They're going to try their hardest to communicate with you, because that's what they want. That's their job. They have not left you. They have not abandoned you. They want to communicate with you. Another thing that goes hand in hand with this is a lot of people have this belief, even if they're not completely aware of it, that they don't deserve to communicate with Spirit. They think that they're not worthy of divine guidance and divine protection and connection to the spiritual realm and angels and all this stuff. And that is absolutely false. I can tell you 100% without a doubt that everyone is connected to Spirit, and everyone has a spirit team and spirit guides, and they are constantly trying to communicate with you all of the time. It doesn't matter what kind of life you've lived, what kind of person you are, they're communicating with you. So you really have to trust the information that's coming in and not second guess yourself. And this is really hard to do because Spirit has been with you your entire life. Spirit has been sending you these messages and these signs your entire life. So at this point, you're just used to them. Like you're used to seeing these images. And it's same if you're clairaudient. Clairaudience is not always a voice that sounds different from the voice in your head. A lot of people think, oh, that wasn't Spirit because it sounded like me. That's okay. That's completely normal. Most people who are clairaudient actually hear Spirit in their own voice. There's only, a few people, I haven't taken a survey or anything like that, but there's only some people that actually hear different voices. And even then, a lot of those people don't hear different voices every single time Spirit is connecting with them. A lot of times it's just random. So, this is me for an example. I'm very, very clairaudient. I receive a lot of messages clairaudiently. However, most of the time when I receive these messages from Spirit, it's in my own voice. Only a handful of times has it been in a voice that I distinctively heard it sound different, like it was in a different tone. So most of the time when I was receiving these clairaudient messages, I would second guess myself, and I would think, oh, I must be making that up. I must have just imagined that. I must have, pick that up from somewhere, and my mind is just throwing it out there because I'm searching for something or I'm searching for an answer. But when I started practicing my mediumship development, that's when I realized that these really were messages from spirit. They were not just in my head. And the reason that this happened was because we would do spirit circles together where we had to give readings to each other, and we had to tell each other what we heard, what we saw, what we felt, what we knew, using all of the clairs. And because it was a class and we were all beginners and, nobody was really advanced, I just put myself out there and I decided to, not hold back. And so I said everything that would come to me, even if it sounded silly. And most of the time, I was right. Even the stuff that I thought I made up. I would be sitting there thinking, oh, I can't say this. I can't say this. I can't share that. And then when I would share it, the person who claimed it or the person who it resonated with would validate it and would validate something else and would validate something else. And that's how I got this confidence to trust that voice that pops in my head. And after working with that voice a little bit longer, I'm able to trust it more. I'm able to differentiate it between my own thoughts. But I've noticed with my own development and speaking with other people, this is really common that we second guess ourselves, that we can't believe that spirit would come to us so easily because it seems so easy, right? Like you just have this random image or this random thought or this random feeling or inner knowing that just pops in and you're like, there's no way. Like that was too easy, because it really does. It feels almost too easy sometimes. But that's spirit. Spirit is easy. And the reason why spirit is easy is because spirit is already connected to you. You are human and you're living a physical human experience, but you're spirit too. So you are always connected to spirit because you are spirit. And the reason why it seems easy is because it is easy. And if you're feeling like you're not connected to spirit, I can tell you a few things that could be happening. One is you're just second guessing yourself, and you are really connected to spirit. But for some reason, you have these limiting beliefs or these blockages around the fact that you can connect so easily, that you can actually hold this communication and this connection to spirit. So that's one scenario. And the other scenario is that you're just not aware of it. You just haven't really become aware of how easy it is that you're connected. And sometimes when we go through really hard times and we may be going through a lot, we may be struggling, our vibration may be, not where it normally is, that can also cause temporary blockages with spirit. And it's not that spirit has left you, because spirit is always with you. But it's just that you're at a certain place right now where you can't receive and you can't be aware of this communication. So I want to offer you some advice and a few tips that you can take with you along your journey that will help you kind of move past some of these limiting beliefs and some of these doubts. And the first thing is, if you notice that you may receive a download or you may receive information and you immediately start second guessing yourself and you don't trust yourself, you don't, believe that what you're receiving is from spirit, you're thinking you're just making it up, it's all in your head, and it's really, really hard for you to move past that, then my advice for you is to do some work when it comes to self-worth and self-love. This has been a big part of my journey, as you know, if you've listened to many of my other episodes, but it really comes down to confidence. It comes down to trusting yourself and believing the information that you're receiving, no matter how you receive it. And it's really hard for us to have that confidence in ourselves when our self-worth and our self-love is not there. So if you're really, really struggling in this area, then I really suggest that you work on that. Work on what is keeping you from trusting yourself. What is keeping you from believing that you could really be receiving these messages from Spirit. And I know sometimes this also plays a part in, well, what will other people think? Other people may think that I'm making it up. Other people may not believe me. Other people may think that I'm lying or that it's all in my head. And what if they're right? Okay, well, what if they're wrong? You should trust yourself more than you should trust other people. So if you receive a download, if you receive a sign, if you receive a message, trust yourself. Trust Spirit. And if you're still struggling with what the message is or what it means, you can ask for another sign. Like, Spirit is constantly communicating with you and loves to communicate with you. So if you're confused or you just want validation, you can ask for a sign of your sign. I know there's like tons of memes and stuff out there about that, but it's okay. Like, it's okay to ask for more. Especially in the beginning, because in the beginning you're still learning, like you're still learning your language with Spirit. You're still learning how you communicate and how Spirit communicates and how Spirit sends you messages and symbols. You're still learning your symbols. You're still learning to trust yourself. So it's okay to ask Spirit to confirm things or to make things more clear for you if that's what you need. And this is also when you can bring in other tools that may help you kind of push past some of that, some of those confidence issues. Like, you can use a pendulum or some tarot cards or oracle cards, anything like that, where you have kind of like a tool to help you and help guide this information that's coming through. So that's my first piece. My second piece is to ask yourself, what is the harm in believing in yourself? What is the harm in believing that this voice that you heard or this image that you saw or this feeling that you got is Spirit? What's the harm in it? Is it going to hurt you? Is it going to hurt someone else? Is it going to change anything? Probably not. Like, it's okay to be excited. It's okay to say, oh, I saw random butterflies in my dream last night, and I just know that was a message from Spirit. Like, who cares if you're wrong? No one's going to know except for you. Now I don't recommend that you just go around and offer readings to people if you haven't done practice, especially if you're going to charge for them. But, when it comes to like your own personal relationship with Spirit and your own personal communication with Spirit, there's nothing wrong with just believing that this was a sign, that this was meant to be for you from Spirit. In fact, that's going to strengthen your relationship with Spirit, because then your angels and your guides and your Spirit team, they're going to know that you're aware of them. They're going to say, oh, hey, you know what? Like, she saw this as a sign, so let's send it to her again. Let's keep sending it to her. She really liked it when we sent her that doe the other day. So like, let's send her another one. Like, Spirit's with you. Spirit's listening, and Spirit's also paying attention to what you are paying attention to. That's why a lot of times, if you do focus on the images that you see, you'll start receiving more images. If you pay attention to the dreams, you'll start having more dreams. If you're paying attention to animals around you, you'll start seeing more animals. Spirit wants you to communicate. They want to communicate with you, and they want you to receive it. So they're going to pay attention to what you are accepting as truth. And you can ask Spirit for specific messages and for specific signs. If you want a message to come to you through feeling, which is clairsentience, then tell Spirit, hey, I know that I am an empath and that I'm really good at receiving feelings. So I would like for you to let me know you're here with just a feeling? Can you give me a feeling to let me know that you're with me? Or you can ask Spirit to show you a specific sign or a specific image or, a specific symbol. Whatever it is, you can say, hey, Spirit, I really want to see a butterfly today. Can you send me a butterfly? But if you're going to ask for these signs and for these symbols, you really have to look for them. And sometimes Spirit works in mysterious ways. So don't expect the way that it's going to come to you either. You may receive it in a dream. You may see it as a flash or a vision in your head. You may see it in the physical. It may be the actual butterfly that flies by you. It may be in a movie. It may be on TV. It may be in a book. Okay? So don't limit how Spirit can communicate with you. Spirit communicates with us constantly. Everything that we are aware of, Spirit is sending us messages through it. So I constantly am paying attention to what's coming on the radio, what songs are coming up, what lyrics are coming in to my head, what song I wake up singing, what kind of imagery is on the TV. All of these things are opportunities for Spirit to really communicate with us. So don't limit yourself on how you're receiving messages. Now, your ego wants you to feel separate. Your ego wants you to feel separate from Spirit. So you're going to have these doubts and you're going to have these thoughts pop in your head that tell you you're making it up, that it's not real, that it's all in your head. And it's up to you to quiet your ego and tell it no and say no. Like, this is a message from Spirit. You have to learn to listen to your intuition and not to your ego. Your ego will try to, make you feel like you're wrong and try to make you doubt yourself. This happens to me all the time. Even giving readings, even giving mediumship readings, and I've been proven time and time again that Spirit is always with me and Spirit always comes through. I still get nervous and I still get afraid that I'm going to say something wrong. I still get afraid that Spirit's not going to come through, even though Spirit has never failed me. Spirit has always come through. But I still normally get nervous and I get a little jittery. And then there's many times where certain images or certain voices or certain things will pop into my awareness, and I'll have that voice in the back of my head tell me, oh, you just made that up, or that's silly, that's something that you just picked up from one of your friends, or you just watched that on TV, or you just heard that a few days ago from someone else. And it's hard, okay? Like, I'm not saying that it's easy. It's hard sometimes to believe it anyways, especially if you're doing readings for other people, or you're trying to give advice to others, or you're trying to, tune in for them. But I want to encourage you, to believe what you're feeling, to believe what you're seeing, believe what you know and what you hear. And if you are giving readings to other people, whether it's for practice or for fun, or you're thinking about doing it professionally, definitely do it then, because once you start receiving that validation, like, that's a game changer. And I'll just share a few of my own personal stories where I was second guessing myself and thinking that there's no way that this actually could be a message from Spirit. And I might have shared this one before, I can't remember. But I had a session with a client, and I was doing a mediumship reading, and Spirit had come through, and we were communicating with this Spirit, and everything was going, pretty well. I had a good connection. Everything that I had said so far was resonating. And then I just start thinking of the movie theater. I don't know why, but the movie theater pops in my head, and it looks like a movie theater that I would go to. So again, Spirit uses your own references because Spirit knows what you know. Okay, so I see a movie theater. It looks just like a movie theater that I go to. And I see myself walking into this movie theater and carrying popcorn. And part of me so badly almost did not share this with the sitter, because I thought that I was making it up. I was thinking, why in the world would Spirit show me walking into a movie theater with popcorn? This can't be from Spirit. This has to be my mind, right? This has to be my ego. This has to be my subconscious trying to, throw things out there or something. But my teacher Allison Shine, she's always encourages us to say what we see, what we hear, what we feel. And so I did. And I just told her, I said, I don't know what this means, but I'm seeing like a movie theater and popcorn. And she gasps and she's like, oh my gosh, that's where I was when they passed away. I was in the movies. And at that moment, like, I just got chills because I knew that that's what Spirit was trying to communicate with me. Spirit was letting both of us know that when they passed, that's where she was. And it was such a profound moment for me because I almost didn't say it. And it was probably one of the most enlightening things that I brought through in that reading. Like, I could just tell that it was so strong for her that the Spirit acknowledged where she was when they passed. Like, it was such a strong connection for her, and it meant so much that I brought that through. And I have like little stories and scenarios like this all the time where I almost didn't say something and I decided to just go for it. And when I did, I was so rewarded. I have a scenario where I was in a class. It was in my mediumship classes that I took. And we were in one of our spirit circles. We were giving, practice readings to each other. And I connected to an energy that just felt different. I couldn't really explain it, but I kept feeling like tingles all over my face, and I instantly thought of one girl in the class, and then I thought of another girl in the class, and not necessarily like thought of them, but like thought of their names, like their names popped up in my mind. And I wasn't really sure how to interpret the energy, but I ended up feeling like it was a child, like it was a little kid. And so I said some of the things that I saw. I was like, I see like a yellow stuffed animal, and I don't even remember everything. I think I said like I saw a book or something like that, and that the energy just felt really young. And I was like, I feel like I like to like sit in laps, and I like to be held, and I'm really sweet and silly. And I ended up talking to one of the girls in there, and she confirmed that it was a boy that she was doing Reiki for who had passed away. And she said that before he passed away, she had given him a little yellow stuffed animal and a book. And after the class, I just had this compelling urge to reach out to the other girl whose name popped up into my awareness, even though I had received the validation that it was this little boy that I connected with. I just had this feeling that something was connected to her too. And what was really funny is she actually spoke up and was going to validate some of the things that I said. But it just didn't work out to where we were able to really communicate during our class. So I reached out to her and I messaged her and I said, look, I'm not sure what happened during my connection because I've never connected with a child before, but before the boy came through, I told her, I was like, I was feeling like this kind of excited energy, and your name popped into my head. And she messaged me back, and she was like, I knew that you were connecting with my dog. She said, you described the pain that my dog, because I said something about feeling like pain in the hip or something like that, and then the tickles on the face. And she actually connects with animals a lot, which is something that I had never done before. So she said, I knew you were connecting with my dog. I just stayed quiet because I wasn't leading things, I wasn't directing things. And the other girl spoke up and claimed the other things that came through. And I told her, I was like, well, I think that the dog came through first, and then the energy shifted a little bit, and it was an easy shift from a light, happy, excited dog to a little kid. Like it's the energy is very similar. And at that time I was still really, really young in my practicing, so I couldn't really differentiate it very much. But I could tell that it was different. I just knew that it was different. I just didn't know how to explain it. And if it wasn't for me just being honest about that, and being honest that I could feel that it was different, that both of those people came to my mind, I would have never known that I connected to animals and to a little boy that day. And it was really profound for me. And it was a really great learning experience, to be honest, because I had never connected with a child or with dogs before. I had another reading where I saw a motorcycle, like I saw a bike, and for some reason I just didn't want to say it. Like, it popped into my awareness, and I was really resistant to it. I was like, no, I don't want to say that this spirit, rode a bike or worked on bikes or whatever, but I did, and I was right. And she was just floored. And then we went into his cause of passing, and I told her that I was feeling a heaviness in my chest, and she said that, he had died from COVID, and I just instantly had this inner knowing, and this is where claircognizance comes in, that it was pneumonia. And so I just said, was it pneumonia? And she said, oh my gosh, yes. And it's little things like that I almost kept to myself, that I almost just, swiped aside and said, oh, I'm not going to say that, or that might not be right. I might just be associating, certain things that I know with certain feelings, because, we do that from time to time. If you see somebody that looks like a biker, you might assume that they have a bike. If you find out that someone died from something with the chest, you may assume that it was COVID or lung cancer, things like that. But you learn the more that you say what comes to you, what is an assumption and what is a message from spirit. And you'll never get through that until you just say it. And it's okay to be wrong. It's okay to be wrong. You're still learning. You're still developing your relationship and your communication with spirit. I'm still developing my communication with spirit, and I've been doing readings for a while now. But I still get symbols and signs every day that I have no idea what they mean. I don't. In one of my more recent sessions, I had a sitter, and I told her that I was seeing keys. And she was like, I'm not sure what that is. So we just moved on, because I tell all of my sitters, I'm like, if what I say doesn't resonate with you, we can ask for more questions, for more clarification from the spirit. And if it doesn't come through, that's okay. We'll just move on. Unless spirit's really persistent about a specific message, we'll just move on, because sometimes I'm wrong, or sometimes I'm not perceiving the message the way that it should be perceived. I'm not interpreting it correctly, or the way that the sitter needs for it to be interpreted. And that's okay. We all think differently. We all communicate differently. Spirits communicate differently. Not every spirit is a good communicator. That happens to me all the time. I definitely get the spirits that are really shy and are, really reserved and just don't give me a whole lot. So it happens. But I've learned that when I just trust what I see, hear, feel, or know, or however it comes through to me, I'm usually, very blessed and rewarded for it, because it's such a big validation for me and the person I'm reading for. So we skipped over the keys and kept going on. And then later, she ended up telling a friend of hers, who I was also doing a reading for, that she thinks that it was her dad who came through. And she said that she thought her dad might be hiding her keys. And me and her friend both just looked at her and we were like, well, he brought up keys. And then all of us just started laughing, because then we knew that that's what he was trying, that's what he was trying to bring to our awareness. And it was just so funny, but it was also very rewarding, because it was something that I thought was wrong, that I thought came through. I thought it was a symbol that came through that I might have just not identified yet, because spirit does communicate in symbols, and a symbol for me is going to have a different definition than what a symbol for you may have. And I know this, and so I've gotten to a point where if I don't get the message right, if it doesn't resonate, it's okay. It doesn't bother me as much as it used to. I'm not going to say it doesn't bother me at all. There's definitely times where it does, but most of the time I try to just write down what that symbol was, so that I can pay attention to it when it comes in again, so I can better understand what the true message is that spirit is trying to bring to me. And this will help me grow, and this will help me really build my relationship with spirit. But it was so funny because I thought that was something that I had interpreted incorrectly. And it come to find out it wasn't. It's just it didn't resonate with her at that moment. And this happens too. Not just with people you give readings for either. This will happen with yourself. You will notice that there may be signs or symbols or things that Spirit sent you that didn't make sense at first, but give it a couple days or a couple weeks, and they usually come back, and you'll remember them, and you'll say, oh, that's what that meant. That's what Spirit meant. And this happens all the time. So I really hope that this helps you have some confidence and helps you learn that it's okay to be wrong, but you should always believe in what you see, know, feel, hear, or whatever it is. Like this should help you, because not everything that you receive is going to be interpreted correctly, and that's okay. But you have to believe in the power of what you are receiving, because you really are receiving it. And I encourage you to practice. If you really need validation, like if you're really struggling and believing these messages from Spirit, practice. Ask a friend if you can practice with them, or ask, like a coworker or a cousin or somebody that maybe you don't know super well, or a friend of a friend or a friend of a friend of a friend. Just ask if you can practice and see what you get right. Like, just write down everything that comes to you, and you'll be surprised at how easy it is. Like, it really is. It's almost so easy that you can't believe it. You're like, oh my gosh, like, it can't really be this easy, can it? But it is. That's how I felt when I first started receiving validation. I was like, is it really this easy? Like, it just seems too easy, but it's because it's supposed to be easy. We make it hard. Our ego makes it hard. It's not actually hard. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. Thanks for joining me. This is for anyone who resonates with this podcast and is interested in more spiritual content. Have you checked out the Chasing Spirituality community? Well, you can find out more on my website, chasingspirituality.com. But this community is a wonderful place for you to meet like-minded people, but also be supported in your own authentic expression as you go on your spiritual journey and you learn more about fascinating topics, as well as exercise your own spiritual and intuitive gifts. We have lives every single month. There's meditation videos and courses and tons of extra bonus content and videos. So if you're interested in more content, please go check that out. We would love to have you.